Good morning, Dr. Alex. I'm a veterinary pathologist and a digital pathology educator, and today we are doing our weekly DigiPath Digest, our journal club style presentation of what's new in digital pathology and medical AI.
Learn about the newest digital pathology trends in science and industry, meet the most interesting people in the niche, and gain insights relevant to your own projects. Here is where pathology meets computer science. You are listening to the Digital Pathology Podcast with your host, Dr. Alexandra Zhurov.
And we have a few cool papers to discuss today. And by few cool papers, I mean 4 exactly. We have the papers, we have infographics, we have everything today. We're going to start with DICOM evolution, the evolving role of DICOM in digital pathology. This is a publication from Medical College of Wisconsin and Leica Biosystems, which, by the way, partnered with Indica Labs for the software part of digital pathology and the image analysis part of digital pathology. So, Leica Biosystems, right? And we have published this in Journal of Pathology Informatics, which I saw that it only has an unofficial 2-year impact factor of 2.35. I don't know what an unofficial 2-year impact factor is. I thought all journals had an impact factor, like low or high, but maybe I'm mistaken. So, digital pathology has emerged as technology with the potential to transform anatomic pathology. I strongly believe in that it does have the potential. And it enables different things, right? It enables remote consultation, computational analysis, streamlined workflows, and more efficient archival of histopathology slides. Yes to everything. And interest in digital pathology has steadily grown. I believe in that as well. And in the United States, 10 whole slide image scanners have been cleared or approved by Food and Drug Administration. And I have a little star here because what it says, it does not only say, oh, you have a bunch of medical devices that are cleared. It also says the same category of medical devices, like 10 of them, passed the rigorous test of being approved or cleared by the FDA. What does that mean? That means digital pathology is good enough. FDA said 10 times, yes, you're fine. I mean, you still need to keep clearing these devices. That is the path of a medical device. But they did it 10 times. Different companies, different scanners. It's good enough, right? So whenever I will hear the pushback, oh, it's not good enough, I'm not going to see this or that on digital pathology, I'm going to say, you know what? Go pull out the validation study from the FDA for all those 10 whole slide scanners. Here's the DOI of the paper that decides that. I didn't invent that. Go check, right? So here, my little rant on not believing in digital pathology. But in short, it is reflecting a growing confidence of this technology. But we have a problem. Proliferation of proprietary vendor-specific whole slide image formats. Yes. Commonly used whole slide image formats like SVS, iSyntax, BIF, I don't know this one, MRXS, and NDPI. So this was Leica, this was Hamamatsu, I think this is Philips. But they're adequate. They're like good enough, right? The validations were with these proprietary formats. They're okay. But the key word here is this is a siloed deployment. Less well suited for integration into enterprise imaging solution. Another keyword, enterprise imaging solution, which also I learned that can be the key to unlocking the potential of digital pathology for departments that maybe as an entity don't have the budget to do it. But the organization department may have, and especially if it's integrated in enterprise imaging, this is like not a standalone justify everything, but part of an ecosystem that is already justified by other components of the system. So we have DICOM, right? To solve this problem, we could do DICOM, which radiology already adopted over 3 decades ago and offers a vendor-neutral whole slide image format. So let's say you have a phone, I have an Android, and I call my husband, and it doesn't go through because he has an iPhone. Can you imagine like not being able to call from one type of phone to call another type of phone because the like signal transmission is not compatible? It's ridiculous, right? In consumer tech, it is ridiculous. Of course, you have Google Play, you have the Mac Store, whatever, but you can get the same apps, they work, you can send the same images. That is not the case for scanners. So very bad, very bad. And one time I was involved in a validation of a digital pathology solution. And this validation was, I was so hoping to be able to adopt DICOM. So what happens? Software doesn't ingest DICOM. Scanner doesn't produce native DICOM. And I'm like, what do you mean? I wanted to be so pure future proof. I wanted to use my purchasing or validator boss or whatever, I was project manager or something, power to promote DICOM, and I couldn't do it. That was 3 years ago. Maybe times have changed. And now let's look at some information from our notebook LM infographics. But they don't take away value of this infographic. When I look at them, they are so like full of text, but when you walk through them, you actually have a good structure. So what we want to do, we want to thaw the data silos. The problem here, guys, the interoperability gap in a DICOM or adoption or in general in these proprietary formats is huge, because 59 have SVS, 40 have MRXS, and only 11% have DICOM. And you know what? Even with Leica, when they cleared the scanner GT450, they made it DICOM native. They opened the patents that they had on file formats, because like it's unheard of in medical device. And they did it so that we could all adopt DICOM. And I hope it's going to happen soon. And please keep demanding DICOM when you buy scanners. But here, this is what the 2024 survey shows. Not too much DICOM. Radiology did it in 1993. Can you imagine? And we are in 2026, and pathology is still doing proprietary. But I hope we really are hitting the same inflection point, and we will get this universal standard. We already have it. And the technical architecture of the slide, obviously, radiology slide, gray and black and white, not Google Maps style. So this is our Google Maps style of whole slide images, the multi-resolution pyramid. The Google Map model is that DICOM fetches only the necessary data tiles from the zoomed in detail, like a map app, right? So when you zoom in into the cellular structures, it's not going to pull all these zoomed tiles. It's just going to pull what you need, like Google Maps when you zoom in on Google Maps. And here, so we have like kind of two components of DICOM, this pyramid, and here like the naming or categorization or metadata, right? We have the staining protocol, section ID, and here I think AI was a little prolific with block ID twice, unless this is part of DICOM, but I don't think so, because here it shows us study ID twice. So study ID, patient identity, right? So yes, this is DICOM, but there is a problem, because the problem is that you can like have files that are like, they can be DICOM and non-DICOM, like SVS and DICOM, dual personality crutch, because we can use files that act as TIFF and DICOM, because people were like, okay, if we already have these proprietary, then let's make it proprietary and DICOM. And what is happening, there is a risk of mismatched metadata, where these like identifiers, this metadata information then doesn't match between one file or the other. And also, the first part of my personal story with DICOM was this validation story. The other one was the annotations. So there is a supplement and working group 26 for DICOM that deals with annotations. And I was part of this group. I don't think if I was officially part of this group, but I was taking part in these meetings, very technical meetings, and I don't think I contributed too much. I was probably like asking more questions to people who were already involved for a long time and doing an amazing job in understanding also concepts that were super complex. But anyway, there is an annotation group, which is now important, very important in digital pathology, and they do a great job on figuring out how to code in DICOM. So because there's, of course, different annotation formats as well. Let's do our next paper. We have a lot of clinical papers, but which is good. This one, rejection-focused precision medicine in kidney transplantation, and the full paper title is Rejection-Focused Precision Medicine in Kidney Transplantation, Biology, Biomarkers, and Artificial Intelligence. So we have several of these. The next three, I think, are more clinical, where the artificial intelligence and digital pathology are a component of whatever new science is happening there. So this one is live from Basel, and this group is from Portugal, and the impact factor of this one is 3.4. And here we are talking about kidney disease, and that kidney disease is the chronic kidney disease is rising worldwide, and transplantation remains the preferred modality of kidney replacement therapy. I actually knew a person who had kidney transplants, but because of kidney cancer and not because of chronic kidney disease. Anyway, long-term graft survival continues to be limited by chronic alloimmune injury, particularly antibody-mediated rejection and its chronic active form. And this is a narrative review that synthesizes contemporary evidence on the immunopathogenesis, epidemiology, diagnosis, and management of kidney allograft rejection. And we're going to dive less into that, but they also examine how artificial intelligence and machine learning may support digital pathology, multimodal risk prediction, and data integration, while recognizing the current challenges of biological interpretability, external validation, and clinical implementation. And they proposed a rejection-focused precision medicine framework and outline key research gaps, including multi-center validation, trial-ready endpoints, and governance of AI-enabled pathways. So let's look at our infographic here. What is happening here for kidney diagnosis? They have this diagnostic triad. So there is serum creatinine, then antibody testing, and basically biopsies. And they say, okay, there are problems with each of these. Serum creatinine is a lagging indicator. It only rises after the nephron scarring has occurred. Then also that antibodies, there is something called the sponge effect, that standard DSA tests can yield false negative or miss bound antibodies, sponge effect. And then also that a biopsy can miss the area where we want to actually sample. And they also talk about molecular, but here what I want to talk about is the integration engine, AI and machine learning, because they have all this data coming from different types of biomarker, they call it biomarker intelligence. That's our biomarker from DNA, from other inflammatory markers, cytokines. Then they have this funny marker. Well, funny. It's very innovative. I have not seen of this kind of biomarker where they gauge the activation of immune system by the how fast this torc-tenovirus is replicating. So if it's replicating fast, the immune cells, the immune system is sleeping, like not super active, which is good for a kidney transplant because there's not going to be a rejection of the transplant. But when the replication of the virus goes down, it means that the immune system goes up. So there is danger for the transplant. So that was I thought that was a cool biomarker. I never heard of a virus that is harmless virus that we have is a biomarker like that. And then, other biomarkers, blood expression for T cell genetics, and all that stuff, right? But we now can leverage AI and machine learning for fusing disparate data layers. And also they focus on this. So AI algorithms like random forest synthesizes nonlinear variables into a unified risk score. Random forest, I have a experience with random forest for image analysis. I guess this is not the best tool for image analysis. Convolutional neural networks are a lot better. But for other variables, maybe random forest is good. So what is the official stand on random forest? I know that it is used for different more like text, tabular, number data, but for image analysis, nope. And we don't want it to be in a black box, so we want to reverse engineer AI decisions showing which variable voted for a high risk prediction. So they have all these variables together, and then they calculate the risk score and say, okay, this contributed so much, this contributed so much because of this and that. So kidney transplant is relying or can rely on AI. There was another thing. No, that was in the next paper, where we have a novel immunohistochemistry solutions. The next one is perineural invasion in solid tumors with AI and machine learning applications. The full title is Perineural Invasion in Solid Tumors, Biological Foundations and the Emerging Integration of Machine Learning and Artificial Intelligence. So we are super happy about that. That's a heart, by the way, if you didn't know, because this is published in Frontiers in Oncology, impact factor 3.3. But again, it is oncology journal that is talking about digital pathology. So what I'm seeing is this is now being seen as a method. I mean, pathology is part of oncology of any type of diagnosis, right? But now digital pathology, the infrastructure, the tools are tools that enable other medical branches, medical areas as well. So what are we talking about here? Perineural invasion, PNI. This represents a distinct route of cancer spread in many solid tumors, and its presence correlates with aggressive tumor behavior, local recurrence, neuropathic symptoms, and reduced survival across selected tumor types, including pancreatic, prostate, head and neck, colorectal, and gynecologic malignancies, but that's not an exhaustive list. And despite its prognostic value, PNI remains inconsistently detected and reported. And not only this, so this is like the standard, right? Pathologists look at something and they differ in opinion because it is our eyes that are limited in, especially if you want to quantify something, but also there's always inter-observer variability and intra-observer. Like in the morning, your cognitive and visual acuity is gonna be maybe better than in the afternoon or the other way around, depending on your circadian cycle. But the next thing is that College of American Pathologists cancer protocols and clinical decisions are and clinical decision making are incompletely integrated. But not only this, CAP differs in opinion what to consider a perineural invasion from World Health Organization. WHO has different criteria. Anyway, so advances in tumor nerve biology have reframed perineural invasion as an active bidirectional phenomenon driven by molecular crosstalk between cancer cells. So before it was just like, okay, we see it, here it is, but now actually there is biology behind it. So this information is even more important, and the granularity of this information is super important too as well. What happens? Schwann cells, neurons, and the surrounding tumor microenvironment, they do this molecular crosstalk. So if you have ever seen these tumor microenvironment graphics, our notebook LM infographics are nothing compared with tumor microenvironment infographics. They're like so full of different types of cells. And now we have another type of cell that the Schwann cells, neurons, and others, right? But mainly Schwann cells and neurons. The others were already in the tumor microenvironment. But parallel advances in digital pathology, machine learning, and artificial intelligence have opened new opportunities to standardize PNI detection and quantify its extent. And we like that as well. We like standardized, we like quantification, because we're digital pathology trailblazers. And this review provide a synopsis of current knowledge on the biology and clinical relevance in solid tumor with the emerging integration and application of machine learning and AI-assisted approaches in histopathology and molecular profiling. So the center of this infographic is our nerve, and then we have a nerve bundle. So the paradigm shift that they are referring to is, before it was like, oh, the tumor like passively leaks like water. If there is a crack, it's gonna leak and then go to the nerve. But Now the biology supports a different theory that actually the nerves are not victims, they're complicit. And Schwann cells undergo phenotype reprogramming to guide cancer cells and dissolve physical barriers. So they secrete nerve growth factor. Yes, nerve growth factor. And then cancer cells get like sucked into that space. So here, let's go to this particular spot on the screen. They basically decided that it's relevant enough to make image analysis for finding these cancers that are wrapping around the nerves. And we know the diagnostic dilemma. The dilemma is that a pathologist has to look at the 2D image on the slide to evaluate something that is 3D. And it's challenging, and you do your best, and then you still differ a lot, and the agreement, the kappa values are ranging between 0.67 and 0.75, which is considered substantial. And I am actually happy that we're substantially agreeing, but we can do better when we use AI and image analysis. So we have two-stage semantic segmentation, and semantic segmentation is basically like delineating whatever we want to delineate on the image. Stage 1 maps normal nerve structures, and stage 2 zooms in to hunt for specific tumor nerve interaction, filtering out visual noise. And with this particular solution that they designed, they had 97.5 accuracy rate. Obviously, accuracy is just like an umbrella metric that can be high even if the algorithm is not fantastic. So let's look into the paper to know exactly what they did. But they finally were able to segment that, and then you don't have to hunt for these. And now we are going beyond the binary reporting. Before it was like, oh, is there PNI or not? And now AI can extract micrometer level proximity data, nerve caliber, and absolute nerve involvement, counts that humans cannot feasibly measure. So we are actually measuring. Then what can happen, and what they actually propose and suggest, is that this can be a biomarker with, or maybe even, it is a biomarker already, but maybe it can be a companion diagnostic. So they are mentioning specific drugs, and let's go to our agentic future conclusion, because they are mentioning agentic AI copilots, for example, PathChat. PathChat was designed by Modella. Modella is now part of AstraZeneca. So the pharmaceutical companies that are creating the drugs can have a companion diagnostic for the drugs. And that's like the theme of the month. There's going to be a webinar on companion diagnostic with Roche. There is going to be the podcast that I told you with Indica Labs, with Doug Bowman from Indica Labs, and all about companion diagnostics, right? Because you want to stratify patients. So this could be a companion diagnostic. And what does have AI Copilot chat have to do with companion diagnostic? Well, what you can do now is you can interact with the results of image analysis. So for example, if you run the image analysis on the slide, what you can ask now is, show me all the instances where this PNI is, for example, over 40% or over 35%, whatever the image analysis delivers you as a result. Or show me all the instances where you found it. So now you don't have to hunt. It's kind of similar to the way cytology is visualized. Like you have boxes around these cells, and then you have a panel, and you can see each of these cells. You don't have to hunt for them. And then when you click on it, you can go back to the slide and see the context. So fantastic. And a quantified PNI will serve as a companion diagnostic for targeted drugs like tanezumab, anti-NGF, and we talked about NGF, the nerve growth factor, which is what's happening. The nerves are giving it to the tumor, and tumor then comes towards the nerve because of this. So we can have a drug that is anti this, and also selpercatinib, RET inhibitor, another pathway. Yeah, so our power tools, image analysis, and then agents that can interact with multimodal data. I am super happy about that. The last one is gastric cancer IHC biomarkers and eye quantification. And this has been published in Medicina. It's a Lithuanian journal. The full title is Comprehensive Overview of Gastric Cancer Immunohistochemistry, Key Biomarkers, Advanced Detection Methods, and Perspectives. And we, as trailblazers, are interested in advanced detection methods and perspectives. They talk a lot about IHC here, but they also talk about super cool ways of evaluating this IHC. So this is a publication from Romania, and they say that IHC, immunohistochemistry, is a keystone in gastric cancer management. And the critical role of IHC markers analyzing in this review, they evaluate the critical role of IHC markers analyzing their efficiency in molecular subclassification and prediction of response to gastric cancer targeted therapies, while also describing state-of-the-art IHC techniques and perspectives. So considering the role of IHC and DAB, the following topics were successfully addressed in 7 sections. Gastric cancer key biomarkers such as HER2, and HER2 is human epidermal growth factor receptor, PD-L1 programmed death ligand, PD-L1, and DNA replication mismatch repair system. And they allow direct correlation between tissue morphology and protein expression. This is why we do IHC, right? To see it in the tissue. That's the advantage of IHC over molecular, that you can see where the signal comes from. Does it come from the tumor? Does it come from necrosis? The main directions were focused on the integration of AI algorithms for digital quantification of IHC signal and also on expansion of panels to new targets such as Claudin 18.2. So there is some new target. And we can now address it with IHC, which is great, which redefines treatment approaches in advanced stages. So other than it's cool that we found new biology, and cancer biology is pretty complex, I also experienced a couple of presentations at the Indica Labs user group meetings, and the users are so advanced, and especially when they're like staining all these cancer pathways, right? But my message from this, okay, I'm not going to be an expert in cancer pathway. The biology we are discovering is now so complex that our visual assessment is not an adequate tool for it anymore. Even though you want to simplify the tests as much as possible, because the simpler it is, the easier to deploy it is in the lab and clinical setting. But we reach a point where it's no longer possible. And then you have computational pathology, biomarker assessment, computational biology, companion diagnostics. So it's happening. It's happening, and I'm seeing this happening in all these publications. So immunohistochemistry remains indispensable in modern gastric oncology. The evolution towards digital pathology and the refinement of scoring criteria will transform IHC from a complementary test into a visual tool that is essential for personalizing oncological treatment. And I actually believe this is gonna happen, and it's actually already happening. It's gonna scale up. So moving on. Last infographics, my trailblazers. The digital pathology revolution. Mapping the gastric tumor microenvironment. See, again, microenvironment. This tumor microenvironment is so relevant and so complex that we need digital pathology for this. So in the middle, we have the cellular microenvironment, what happens in gastric cancer. We have first inflammation to atrophy, then we have metaplasia to dysplasia, and then we have invasive adenocarcinoma. And this biology, also this entity used to be in older patients, now it's in younger patients, so there is more of it, and the treatment is going to save more years of life. So we covered the 3 important biomarkers, HER2, PD-L1, oh my goodness, PD-L1, and this score, CPS, combined positive score. And the other one is tumor proportion score, and this one is combined positive score. It's a nightmare. This freaking thing is a nightmare. So you're staying with PD-L1, programmed death ligand, right? And if you have seen it, it's like a membrane marker in tumor cells, but it also stains macrophages, and it also stains other immune cells, lymphocytes. And then you are supposed to visually do this like combined positivity and abstract like mentally the immune cells from the tumor cells. Let me check exactly how you're supposed, because I'm exaggerating. It is for pembrolizumab, Keytruda, and it calculates the ratio of PD-L1 staining cells, tumor cells, lymphocytes, to the total number of viable tumor cells multiplied by 100. So trailblazers, here was a fantastic opportunity to have a computational pathology biomarker. And no, they are like making pathologists do that. It's impossible. And how do I know that it's impossible? There was one research project where I had to score different ways of PD-L1, and I tried to be consistent. I don't think I was, because it's impossible to be consistent with such a complex visual score. So we have this combined. We have the new biomarkers, we have the mutations, but even with all these imperfections, we know that IHC is faster than next-gen sequencing. And that is all we need to know. But let's go to, and here is, at the bottom, we're gonna have the advancements in what happened in IHC. We have better antibody engineering. We have synthetic polymer detection. We have better antigen retrieval methods. But then, so we've got AI here because, and here, multiplexing and AI. And here we have a little typo, multiplexing, but we know it's multiplexing. Anyway, the bright field color revolution. Translucent chromogens allow overlapping markers to show green for co-expression. And green is just an example, right? You stain something with yellow, you stain something with blue, and then when they are co-localized or co-expressed, not only co-localized and co-expressed, that's the same thing. Then they change color and you know that, okay, I have two now. And if you try to do it visually, you're gonna hit a wall. Also, another thing, multiplexing, 23 plus markers on a single slide. This depends on the technology. It can be like 50. It can be, I don't know how many. Even if you do 3, you are better off with a computer. And you can measure the spatial relationships between different cells. When I started in this field like over a decade ago, and I heard this like spatial relationship between tumor microenvironment, I thought it's like some fancy science that is just fancy science and people want to quantify it because they are interested in it. But now it actually has clinical implications. So we have the multiplexing, the AI, computational AI to help quantify and detect these things. But obviously, another thing is like the explainability, XAI. In this particular example, it generates spatial heat maps showing exactly which cellular anomalies the AI used. It's kind of a proxy. It's like, okay, AI was using an attention mechanism, and this is where the attention comes from. But the example I wanted to give you for this explainability, okay, there's the image with a dog, and if the attention is actually on the dog, then you can extrapolate that the information was taken out from the relevant part of the image. If the attention was on a cloud and still the image was classified as containing a dog, you would doubt your AI, because how can you get information from the clouds visually that it's a dog? So this is kind of a proxy for that, but that's pretty good. If it comes from the tumor, from the correct cell, then it is good. Thank you so much for joining me, for staying till the end. If you're watching the recording, let me know in the comments what resonated, what questions you have. If you are not a subscriber to Digital Pathology Place, you can subscribe and get this book, the PDF version of this book, Digital Pathology 101, all you need to know to start and continue your digital pathology journey. And also, it's gonna be in the description. Thank you so much for joining me, and I talk to you in the next episode.